Hi, this is Di, the bass playing mom, and today we are going to talk about changing bass strings. The thing about changing bass strings is that as a bass player, you don't have to do it that often. Really, you should leave your strings on until you can't play on them anymore. How will you know if you can't play on them anymore? Well, these particular strings that I have here, they have a bump in them. There's an actual ridge that I can feel when I'm playing. Like right here on the fret, I can actually feel a ridge. That would be a sign that it is time to replace those strings. Plus, my next video is going to be about the difference between flats versus wounds. And I have all wound strings on my basses, so I'm going to put on some flat strings. So there's a story about these, of course. I did not pay for these strings. My son bought these for his bass and they turned out to be the wrong strings. So I inherited them. I think they were too short and my basses are short scale. So that worked out happily for me. So if you're going to change bass strings, you're going to need a set of strings, some wire clippers, and a microfiber cloth. Make sure that you have those three things before you get started. I also laid it out on a towel so that I don't scratch the table or my bass, and I put a little towel under the neck. If you have a professional working on your bass, they'll have a little stand, but hey, I faked it with a towel. That'll work. So those are all the ingredients I need to change the strings. First thing I'm going to do is pick out which string I'm going to change. Now these are the Adrio XLs, and they're called chromes. They're supposed to have a warm, mellow tone. They were already opened since they were a failed experiment of my son's. And this brand comes with the strings color-coded. Each string has its own color on the end. A brass one, a black one, a green one, and a red one. And then inside the box, it tells you which string is which one. It says green is the G string, black is the D string, A string is red, and E string is brass. I'm going to start with the E string. I've seen people start with different ones, but I just don't want to make a mistake. That's the one thing, is that once you make a mistake putting strings on your bass, there's really no going back. You have to buy a whole new set. Don't ever change just one string on your bass. It's not going to sound good with the other ones, because as time goes on, you get a more round sound and a more bright sound on a new set of strings. So you want to make sure that the sound matches on all your strings. I've got my string picked out. This is going to be my E string, which is the first string, the one closest to you when you're playing bass. So the first thing you do is loosen up the string you're going to change. Now I'm going to change the strings one at a time. There are two camps. There's one camp where you just cut them all off and you do them all. But that can change the tension in your truss rod, and I don't want to take any chances. I don't want to go get my bass set up again. So I'm just going to take off one string at a time. First you get it nice and loose. Now you can just keep unwinding it if you want to. You can just unwind, unwind, unwind until it comes off. Or you can actually cut it with the wire cutters to make it a little easier to get out. I do that just to prevent any chance of me scratching the bass. I'm one of those people that still likes their basses to look nice and new. So let's see if this works. Maybe not me through the E string. All right. So if you can't get through it with your wire cutters, just go ahead and keep unwinding. I'm just gonna have to be really careful that I don't scratch anything with the long end. That's the only difference not cutting it makes. Now, to be honest, I'm usually the kind of person who pays somebody to change my strings. Do I need someone to do it for me? No. Do I like to have someone do it for me? Yes. I figure other ladies pay to get their nails done. I pay to have my strings changed. However, since I already have this set of strings, I don't want to just pay the markup, right? All right, I'm going to have to be really careful getting this out that I'm not scratching the bass. Now, there are two kinds of bridges on basses. This bridge is one where the string feeds through the back of the bass. There are also bridges where the string goes in here. I chose this one because it needs the strings changed, because I have 4 basses, so I could have put them on any bass. This one really needs the strings changed. Also, I didn't want to make any mistake and scratch while I was making a video for you, so I thought I'd do the one I'm not going to scratch. So now I'm going to get the string to go through the back. And there we go. A little bit of elbow grease. All right, so this is the dead string, right? And it's really damaged, so I know I'm never going to use it again. Now, if I thought I might possibly need backup strings and it wasn't beyond repair, I might keep those, but they're in bad shape. Now I'm going to take a second and clean. One disadvantage to not cutting all the strings off right at the get-go is that it's not going to be as easy to clean. I'm going to have to clean every time I take a string off. I'm going to try really on this E to get as deep in as I can. I'm in there a lot more than I expected for just taking one string off. It does really seem to be cleaning it up. Nice. Alright, now I'm going to feed the string in through the back. It's like threading a needle. Just what a bass playing mom would say. Threading a needle when you do a cross stitch project. All you dudes are probably doing cross stitch out there. Alright, cross stitch is fun. So now I've got the string coming out of the bridge, you see that? Now you're going to want to make sure really it's all the way through and that it makes a nice bend here. It comes over. I want to give it a little elbow grease, like I said. Put a little power into it to make sure it gets nice, it seats nicely. And you want to cut the string 2 nuts up. But before you do that, make sure you put a good bend in it. That keeps any coiling from being disrupted when you cut the end. Let's see if I can do it. You can do it, Diana. I have the wrong tool. I got it! I don't know where the end went. Alright, we'll get that later. We're going to push that end in. And you want to wind the string so that it is going over the top, so that when it coils around, it coils down. This is very, very important. It needs to coil down. Why? Because that's how you're going to make sure it lands here really well. You don't want it to be too high and bouncing off when you play. Especially if you're playing like some wild, like, funk lick and you're slapping the bass, you don't need your string just coming off at you. Okay, so here's the critical part where I'm making sure it coils beneath. They don't overlap. That's going to cause all kinds of drama we don't need. It could actually pop off and reseat itself in the middle of a lick. And that would be no good. It's so strong. The E string is so strong. Should have started with G and made it easy on myself. It's okay, I'm making sure it winds down instead of over top of itself. I'm sure if you've ever worked with a spool of thread, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Funny analogies. Let's see, how's it look? Looks pretty good to me, and it's seated nicely right there. It'll pop off. Awesome. That's the first string. Now we just have to do this 3 more times. I bet we'll be speeding things up. It's kind of cool how the flat rounds are a totally different color. Do you think I'm doing any of this wrong? Since I don't do it very often, and really there's no bass player should be changing strings that often. Part of getting your strings to sound right is the aging process. So if there's something I'm doing wrong, I want to make sure that you point it out to me, and I'll fix it on these before I play it. One thing I am going to do is I'm going to stretch them. Maybe I'll do it after this string. I'm doing this in the middle of the quarantine. Plus, one side of this room is clean, the other side is a disaster. This is my office for work as well. It's my music room, my office for work, my craft room, my office for home, and all of my box storage. So, you know. That's how the COVID works. Haven't caught it yet. That's a plus. It's all going everywhere. Okay. Don't have time for that. Time to clean. I'm confused because this is way thicker. Oh, that's the one I already did. That's what I'm confused. This is the one. Oh no, that looks right. Stuff going every which way. Okay. Don't forget to stretch. It's like any exercise. You gotta make sure you stretch. Wow, I can feel it stretch. Ha! They really stretch. The last one is the G string. The string that makes the middle schoolers giggle. Which string did you break? Which string did you break? I like how the colored ends look in the back. It's pretty sharp. Last string, the G string. More cleaning. And do it while you have the chance. Not gonna get easier. You know, they make a little thing that attaches down here so you can twist these faster. Okay, and that is how you change a set of bass strings. I'm going to tune it up and play it in my next video. There'll be links here to videos about my gear and something that YouTube picked just for you. Done.